Nice to have you on. All right, bro. Let's get started.
Let's do it.
Let's uh let's gather those emotions and bring it on to this interview. So first and foremost, I want to thank you for hopping on.
For
As
sure.
everybody else saw, this gentleman is extremely busy.
Thanks, Todd. Appreciate it.
So it really means a lot that you were able to take some time to not only inspire somebody else, but really allow people into your world. And that's what we're going to get it down to right now. So, Rafa, first and foremost, tell everybody listening, a little bit about yourself. You can tell them how we met, good times.
Oh yeah, back in the good old days. Yeah, so Elvin and I obviously go back to college days at UCSB. It was a lot of fun. We spent a lot of time at the gym and whatnot, and through our classes. But basically now, obviously, I graduated. We graduated back in 2014. I studied economics and accounting. I jumped into accounting for a little bit. Decided this might not be for me. Ended up going into finance, which was amazing. So I did finance for about the better part of 4 years. Had an incredible time. Company was amazing. Really good experiences. But then recently jumped ship, and I've been doing real estate full time with one of the top teams here in Santa Barbara with the Z Group, which has been incredible. Amazing learning opportunity, learning from individuals and kind of growing every day. So that's been really neat to see and to get the opportunity to do the work that I'm doing. So that's kind of where I'm at right now.
It's funny because you sell yourself so short, bro. What Rafa didn't mention, he does a lot of community service. He mentors a lot of youth. He gets to inform them on financial literacy, which is kind of how we came across paths again. We've always remained friends after college, but you know how it gets when we start working, especially like a full-time job. It's hard to make time for people, but Rafa is
Yeah.
doing a lot of amazing things. So tell them a little bit about your upbringing, like Santa Barbara. You're out there. Did you ever leave?
I left for a little bit. So I left for a little bit. I was dragged, is what I should say. Well, I guess it was pretty nice, right? So I ended up moving to Santa Maria. That's where I went to high school. Obviously, I had an amazing time there. I met some great people. That's when I ended up moving back to go to UCSB. And at UCSB, I ended up staying there for quite some time. And after I graduated, I ended up staying here full time. So in terms of like obviously the programs that we've been doing, we have like Partners in Education is one that I've been really passionate about. So a lot of people don't really know what that is, but it's basically career coaching for high school students, where we get to sit down with them, and for 6 weeks we kind of walk them through preparing them for what an internship might look like at the end of that kind of 6 week period. So we help them from everything from resume building to cover letters, interviews, and one of my favorite topics that we do and that I've been running is the financial literacy portion, right? So we sit down with these kids, and they're always kind of fascinated and amazed because I don't think that they ever, in class, don't really learn as much as I feel like they should about some of these topics. So for them to kind of get exposed to what it actually is like with life after high school and life after college, it's really rewarding because their faces just light up when we speak about that. So that I've been, really passionate on that end, on, sitting down with folks all the time and explaining to them as much as possible what it looks like. But yeah, I know that program's been incredible. I've been doing it for like 3 years now, and so far, so good. We've actually had, with my previous employer, we had the opportunity to actually hire some of those interns, which was really rewarding because you kind of train them, and then you see them blossom and grow, and some of them are now going into college and doing really cool stuff. So it's nice to kind of look back and go, maybe I was able to help in just a little bit if possible.
It's funny. I'm telling you, bro. You sell yourself short. You said maybe you did. You do
Yeah,
that for them, man.
I appreciate
That's
that.
amazing. Uh, and it's funny because you're like my go-to person when it comes to geeking out about the market. And so tell us a little bit about your experience in finance. So from undergrad, you went into accounting. You decided, that wasn't for you. Then you went into finance. Tell us a little bit about that journey, that transition.
Yeah, for sure. So I went into finance. I actually was doing a little bit of accounting. I ended up leaving, kind of traveled for a little bit. So I was in Barcelona for like 2, 3 months with our friend Fernando. Had an amazing time of my life. Ended up coming back. And with the position that I had was basically I was working as an investment analyst. And our role was helping companies with their 401k plan. So obviously, most people when they work at a job, they have a 401k. So our job was advising them on what to do with their plan, like what kind of investments to include. We'd offer like recommendations and stuff. So that was a really neat experience to be able to see firsthand what that looked like for work and go to different conferences. And to your point, geeking out about these things, that's something that I followed even personally on my own. So to be able to like kind of learn from it every day, and even now still apply a lot of the stuff that I learned into real estate is really rewarding, because I feel like a lot of the times it's, literally today when I sat down with my client, we were looking at 2 properties, and she was thinking about them for investment purposes. So I took all of everything that I've learned, right? So I took a spreadsheet and I did some really cool formulas to show both properties what they would look like based off of the income, the expenses, and really narrow it down and go, okay, this is what it looks like. This is where you're going to get your best returns. This is where you might get the best appreciation. And she was super thankful and grateful for that, because she was a very visual person. So that helped her a lot, just see it firsthand. Because when we were at the properties, it's kind of like, okay, well, emotionally, this was great. This might have been nice about this one, but to be able to see it firsthand, like numbers, because that's where her intended purpose was, that to her was really neat. So we were able to finally decide on which one we were going to write an offer with, which we did. So I'll keep you guys posted on how that goes.
Dude, awesome. So let's take a pause right there and unravel
Sure.
what you just said. It goes a long way when you take time to really educate somebody, especially when it comes to investments, whether it be, retail investments, as you were mentioning in the past, you were working 401k investments, so employer-sponsored retirement plans, and now property, right? Like, I really admire the fact that you took the time. Like, how many people can say they do that?
Yeah,
And
that's a good point.
the fact that you took that upon yourself to educate her because you have the best interest of her. And man, like, that's so powerful, Rafa. Like,
Yeah.
that's awesome, man.
So you hit a really good point. You mentioned have the best interests in her, right? And I think from the moment that I graduated, every single position and role that I've had, I've been a fiduciary in some sense, whether it be through accounting purposes, through finance. I got my financial advisor license, and now through real estate, I'm acting as a fiduciary to my clients. So for those of you that don't know, like what that entails is literally you have to by law have the best interest in your clients ahead of yourself. And that seems like really intuitive. That seems like common sense to some people, but I feel like you would be surprised how oftentimes the lines get blurred and some people might not act in the best interest of their clients, right? So that's kind of been ingrained with me ever since I graduated. So it's kind of natural to me. And I feel like everyone should have that moral responsibility, but a lot of the times it might not be the case. So that's really stuck. Yeah, that's really stuck with me throughout everything. So yeah, no, I'm glad you pointed that out for sure.
Yeah, man. It's like, in the financial term, it's suitability.
Yeah, so
You got to
it's
make sure that
and
the investor's
yeah,
suitable.
and to your point, a lot of people sometimes ask, right, whether it be in the stock markets or in real estate, they always reach out and they go, hey, what should I invest in? What's the best investment for me? What should I do? And if somebody ever gives you a straight answer and tells you without understanding your situation, says, hey, you should invest in this, or you should buy this property, run the other way, because there's no way that someone can give you advice without understanding your entire situation and your entire picture. So you have to sit down with someone, really understand what their goals are, really understand their risk tolerance before you can literally give them advice on what's best for them. And to your point, what's most suitable for them. Because what's suitable for me might not be suitable for you, and it might not be suitable for someone else either. So really important point there. So glad you mentioned that.
This is why I'm proud to call you a partner. You want to just end the call right now?
Yeah, yeah. No,
No, man, that
man,
was
you hit on some really
awesome.
good stuff.
And
Yeah,
Janet hit it on the nail. She said integrity with 3 exclamation points, bro. I love that you live your life that way. And, that's on the financial aspect of it. We haven't even got into your transition into real estate. Like, this morning we had a conversation and we were kind of preparing for the call. And I was like, dude, honestly, I just kind of wing it. But then I started thinking, I was like, you know what? Most people would look at you and be like, hey, you're crazy. Why would you leave your finance job and go into real estate? Like, real estate's not even secure. Like, why would you do that, Rafa? So I guess my question to you is like, why, Rafa? Like, why real estate?
I mean, I've always been interested in real estate. I feel like ever since the financial crash of 2008, I've been fascinated with like finance and real estate almost at the same time. I was fortunate to learn a little bit about real estate through like the people around me growing up. So I always knew that was in the back of my head. So I ended up, I was working full time. I had the opportunity to kind of jump ship and join an amazing team, which some of my team members are here. Thank you guys for joining. Hi, Kim. So that almost became a no-brainer to me. I started off kind of wanting to do it part-time, and I think it wasn't until COVID times. Yeah, Kim says best team is you. Yeah.
Shout outs.
No, and to your earlier point, I mean, you mentioned someone, I think Janet mentioned integrity. I think that's so important for just anyone who works with a different team, right? Like I literally have on my whiteboard, impact leading to wealth. And I feel like I live that. I feel like by doing the right things all the time, it eventually leads to, like just good karma and whatnot. So that's super important. But I ended up jumping full time, had the opportunity to do so, and haven't really looked back ever since. I really took a bet on me, and decided to jump into something where it was uncapped, and everything, all the work that I put into it was going to be returned to me if I took the time and put in the work. Which sometimes it's like ups and downs, you have different situations, but at the end of the day, like we're here to problem solve, and we're here to help people through their transitions and to help people into something that's super important to them, right? It's the ability for them to gain generational wealth, which I've seen firsthand what an impact real estate can have. So that's why I'm like super passionate about it. If you couldn't tell already.
Yeah, no, dude, that's why I love speaking to somebody with this much passion, because it makes everything so much easier, makes everything flow. And that's why, as I mentioned, I like to just wing it, because I kind of feed off people's energies. And I honestly, look at you, you're smiling, you're geeking. But like Kimberly said, for those that missed it, impact leads to wealth. And the fact that you have that on your whiteboard, it's important to read. I always tell people, if you're struggling through something, write it down and read it. It's like it's an affirmation. So
Absolutely.
You're waking up, or you're going through your day, and you remind yourself, impact leads to wealth, right?
Yeah,
How am I making a positive impact
mm-hmm.
in the world where, it brings, that good karma, as you were mentioning.
Yeah.
And, I know you've been on a journey for personal development. Like we could talk about books, all day long, but, it is very inspiring, that you took a chance in yourself. A lot of people wouldn't even think to do that. And I really hope a lot of people kind of take that away from this.
Yeah. Just waking up and having that, and always remembering like every single morning, like why you're getting up and doing these things, I think is super important, right? Because at the end of the day, you wake up and you go, okay, who can I help today? Who can I pass off this knowledge to? Who can I pass off this information to? You wake up and start your day like that, I think it's going to be incredible. And to your point, yes, it was hard, because I think you tend to get comfortable when you're kind of working in the day to day, and it gets really easy sometimes. So I think having jumped ship and doing that, it really took a mental shift, and I had to really focus on what I was feeding my mind, if you will. So that was super important when I did transition to real estate. Yeah,
dude, that's awesome.
Daniel, our CEO and fearless leader, said our big why fuels us, which I completely agree.
I love how active the comments are going right now. But being a real estate agent isn't everything you do. Yeah, it's funny that you said this once to me. You're like, I don't want to be a jack of all trades and a master of none. But in a sense, you kind of, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Like, I think that's like a negative self-talk where you're just like saying, I want to be a master at one specific thing, but the ability that you have, you're a financial guru, man, in my opinion. You have the best interest when you're meeting with your real estate clients, and then you have another project going on with Pad Split, right?
Oh, yeah.
Talk a little bit about that.
So I think it all goes hand in hand, and I feel like for me, the last year and a half, 2 years, it's been focusing on like learning as much as possible and taking all of that and being able to apply it for myself, which I was so fortunate to have done, because that was always a massive goal for me. With Pad Split, and was just acquiring a property, something that I had for myself that I really wanted to push myself to do. So it really took so much learning last year jumping on calls, jumping into, just talking to different people who were doing it and really taking a bet. Because I still remember a lot of, obviously, like now I talk about it and I'm like, it worked out, which is great. But I still remember the day when when we entered into escrow, I was freaking out the whole time. I literally walked out of the room one time and my parents looked at me and like, hey, you look stressed. And I was like, yeah, you don't say. But I think knowing that, okay, well, I know the process. I know we've analyzed everything. We know what we're doing, kind of, I guess you can say. That gave me the confidence to kind of push forward and go that route. Ended up closing on it, and it's been incredible just to have people that are also just being able to show people a different model and what they can potentially do. So that's been one of my biggest passions, like as of late, is trying to help. And I feel like I'm constantly, I actually have a call today at 7:30 with somebody on my team about pad split. So they're kind of like exploring options and stuff. So I'm just trying to serve as a resource and a sounding board to anyone who has that kind of aspirations, and just kind of see how it goes. But so far so good. I can't complain.
Yeah, and I love how you make yourself available to many. In my eyes, you are a resource full of information. So let me ask you, let's talk about a success within real estate, and then also talk about an adversity that you come across.
Success and adversity, man, that's a tough one. But I think one of the one that sticks out to me the most, and by the way, this wasn't the biggest deal. This wasn't the fastest close. This one sticks with me because of everything that we literally just talked about, okay? This was a buyer, this was a renter who had lived in a property as a rental for almost 30 years, okay? She had basically paid off the seller's mortgage completely. And finally, she had the opportunity to save up enough money and purchase the home that she had lived in, the home where her children had, grown up, and call it herself, call it her own. This was also a Spanish speaker, so it's close to from, and it was a friend's family member. So all of that wrapped into one, and for me to have been able to kind of just basically quarterback that transaction, because everything was already done. All I needed was for them to just walk her through the process and everything from like reading through the documents for her, because unfortunately in real estate, it baffles me. They don't have documents in Spanish for some reason or any other language. Everything has to be read in English. And that sometimes to me is crazy, because you have people that are kind of signing one of the biggest purchases in their life. And I think it's super important to have someone who can properly walk you through that. So I took great pride in that, because every single phone call that I had with her was incredible. Like, she was just so thankful throughout everything. So I think that's what I would name as one of like the proudest moments that I've had so far. I hope that there's more of those, but it was really rewarding for sure.
Heck yeah, man, I love that. Now let's talk about the not so pretty side. What's an adversity you've had to overcome in the real
I
estate?
mean, I think adversities, like I said, I feel like real estate is really like a problem-solving industry. Okay, so every day, every transaction is going to be different, which is one thing that I love, right? So no matter what, I don't care if you sell the exact same property 2 years later, 1 year later, every single escrow and every transaction is going to be different. You'll never get the same thing. That's a given. So that to me is I love it, because you can never get too complacent. It's always about you learning. And every single deal is gonna be hard. Like they're not easy sometimes. You go through stuff where you're like negotiating and you run the risk of losing this or losing that. So really taking a step back, even through those adversities, taking a time to breathe, like becoming Zen a little bit, has really worked out. I kid you not. Like sometimes I have to like walk for like 2 seconds and really let my emotions like settle down, and then go, okay, now that we have all of the information on the table, how are we going to proceed? How are we going to move forward? So even though it's, quote unquote, a detriment sometimes, I think it really forces you to overcome any of those obstacles that come your way. So I almost, through every opportunity, it's a learning lesson to then apply and then have that knowledge to be able to tell your clients like, hey, I've been through that before. No, don't worry about it. This happened last time. This is how we're going to approach it. So again, just taking from the mindset of learning, I think is super important.
Very cool, man. And last question for me, and then I'm going to open it up to the audience. I know we have 14 viewers, but what I want to ask you, just to close this off, is what kind of quote of inspiration can you give somebody who, you know, wants to jump into something new. But as you were saying, they've already been comfortable over time, because a lot of us kind of go through that, and it's just, you know, no fault of anybody. We just follow a system that's kind of been in place, where you go to school, get a job, work 9 to 5, work 40 years, but then something sparks. So like, I'm sure something sparked within you, where now you're like, you know what? I want to go to a commission based industry, where now I'm working, and then like my work will show, you know, my income. So just, I guess, try to inspire us.
Yeah, yeah, no pressure. I also have like 2 minutes. I'm just kidding. I think the ultimate thing that I was thinking of when you were talking is just bet on yourself and be confident that you're going to be supported with the people around you. Like I obviously try and wake up every morning and just write something that I'm thankful for and grateful for. And one of the most common denominators every single, like one of the almost every day, is just being grateful for the people around me. That's my friends, my family, and people who really support me throughout everything that I do. Because without them, you know, it'd be really tough to navigate. Sometimes you're on your own, so it's kind of gets lonely. So to be able to have them as support is incredible. Everything from like my team to my friends, even on the worst days, it's easy to fall back on that and realize like, holy crap, I'm so grateful. I have so much to be grateful for. I live in a beautiful city with incredible people. So it's always taking that time to remember that and not dwelling on like the pressure of it all, which there isn't that much. But
Dude, that's awesome.
oh,
I love that.
great.
And again, thank you for your time. So if anybody has any questions, we could take one or two. In the meantime, Rafa, kind of tell them a little bit about, you know, what you want them to know about you, where they could follow you at.
Yeah, definitely. So obviously Instagram is there with the Zia Group team here in Santa Barbara. Just an incredible group of people, but we also help anybody in California, anybody in other states. Like whenever I feel like I always have friends who are looking to buy homes in different states, in different cities, and they use me as a resource sometimes to like reach out and one, just get informed, because a lot of people don't really know what the process is to work with an agent sometimes. So, or like what questions to ask, what's the right questions to ask an agent. So I've had people and friends, really close friends, who reach out to me for that, where then I can explain to them the process, explain to them everything that they're going to need to know about the transaction, about the nuances, but also be able to like connect them with other agents in whatever city it is that they're going to be looking to buy, right? So if it's somewhere in LA, we have incredible agents that we work with, that we mastermind with, and that we can pass off and do a warm introduction. But same with like everybody in different states across the country. And then obviously I'd love to be a resource for anything investment related. That's been one of my biggest kind of growth areas this year. Trying to stay as informed as possible, different markets all over the place. And then if anybody ever wants to talk about just anything to do with the market, I think to your point, right? Like there's times where you text me at 6 o'clock in the morning before the market's open and we're having conversations about what's going on, and all of that macro aspect I geek out on. I think I'm really passionate about it, because I think one thing happening in one part of the world affects so many other people in our parts of the world. And I think that's kind of neat to a sense, that everything's so interconnected. But yeah, that's kind of what I would say.
Cool. So we got no questions. Follow him at Rafa_Mora. And if you guys have any friends who would like to watch this, I'll be posting this on my YouTube channel, on my link tree in the bio. I'll also post a short little reel. So thank you again, Rafa. I appreciate you. And for all the 17 of you on, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Alvin. Thanks for having me.
Take care, brother.
See you guys.